The Grand Ballroom of the Corinthia Hotel was drowning in self-congratulation. Crystal chandeliers wept light onto tables, groaning with floral arrangements and half-empty champagne flutes. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the low, rumbling murmur of 100 conversations, all centered on success. This was the annual Apex Design Awards, the corporate world's equivalent of a victory parade, and my boss, Marcus Thorne, was the Grand Marshal. I was tucked away at table 17, near the kitchens, a ghost at the feast. My name was Leo Vance, and I was the firm's senior structural engineer. In a company that prized charismatic salesmen and slick graphic designers, I was the quiet, necessary plumbing. I didn't design the beautiful, shimmering skins of our buildings. I designed the bones that kept them from collapsing. My work was invisible, buried under layers of polished concrete and aesthetic cladding, and by extension, so was I. Marcus, however, was anything but invisible. He stood at the podium, bathed in a spotlight, his teeth impossibly white against his sun lamp tan. He was a maestro of moments like this, a conductor of applause. He had built Thorne and Associates from a boutique firm into an architectural powerhouse through sheer force of will and a talent for taking credit for other people's genius. "This has been a banner year," Marcus boomed, his voice echoing through the cavernous space. "We didn't just meet expectations, we shattered them. The Horizon Tower, the Serenity Bridge, these aren't just structures, they are statements. And they were made possible by the tireless dedication of my incredible staff." He began to list names, a litany of project managers and lead designers who preened and nodded as the spotlight found them. I swirled the lukewarm water in my glass, the bubbles rising and popping, like my own fleeting hopes for a quiet mention. I didn't expect a parade, but a simple "and Leo Vance," whose engineering solutions made it all possible, would have been a welcome acknowledgement. For 10 years, I had been the silent engine in Marcus Thorne's sports car, and for 10 years, he had been the one enjoying the ride. He was winding down, his voice softening into a tone of paternal pride. I look out at this room, at these brilliant faces, and I am filled with an overwhelming sense of pride. I am proud of every single person who contributes to the Thorne and Associates family. He paused. The timing was perfect, designed to draw everyone in. He swept his gaze across the room, and for a horrifying, heart-stopping moment, his eyes landed on me. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face, the kind a shark gives just before it bites. "Except this loser." He pointed. A single, immaculately manicured finger, aimed directly at me at table 17. The murmur in the ballroom died instantly. 1,000 pairs of eyes followed his finger to find me, a deer caught in the headlights of a semi-truck. The silence was a physical thing, a crushing weight that pressed down on me, sucking the air from my lungs. It was a joke, surely, a brutally misfired, career-endingly awful joke. But the smile on Marcus's face was one of genuine malice. He saw my stunned, pale face and chuckled, a low, ugly sound amplified by the microphone. "I'm kidding, of course," he said, but the damage was done. The words hung in the air, iridescent and toxic. "Leo here, he's our numbers guy. A bit of a sad sack, always buried in his notebooks. But we all need our nerds. Right?" A few sycophants near the front managed a weak, uncertain titter. Most people just stared, their expressions a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. My face burned with a heat that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. The world had narrowed to a single searing point of humiliation. In that moment, I wasn't a senior engineer. I wasn't a professional with a decade of experience. I was this loser. Something inside me, a quiet, load-bearing structure that had withstood years of being ignored and undervalued, finally cracked. I didn't say a word. I didn't flip the table or shout or cause a scene. My grandmother used to say that the greatest strength was in controlling your own reaction. With a calmness that felt utterly alien, I placed my napkin neatly on the table. I pushed my chair back, the scrape of its legs against the polished floor a deafening roar in the vacuum of silence. I stood up, adjusted the lapels of my ill-fitting suit, and turned my back on Marcus Thorne and the entire glittering facade of my career. I walked towards the exit, my steps even and measured. Every eye in the room was a physical touch, a burn on my skin. I could feel Marcus's stunned silence behind me. He had expected me to shrink, to absorb the blow like I always did. He had not expected me to leave. The cool night air hit me like a splash of cold water, a welcome shock after the suffocating heat of the ballroom. I didn't stop walking. I passed the valets, the waiting limousines, the entire apparatus of a world I no longer belonged to. I just walked, the rhythm of my footsteps on the pavement, a steady, grounding beat. I left, but the story didn't end there. It was only the beginning. The next morning, my phone remained silent. No angry call from Marcus, no concerned text from HR. It was as if I had simply ceased to exist, erased from the corporate ledger. The feeling was not one of despair, but of profound, terrifying freedom. I spent the day in a fugue state, boxing up 10 years of my life. Not the company-issued laptop or the security badge, but the things that mattered. My collection of architectural history books, a framed photo of my late parents, and most importantly, my notebooks. They were my real work, my true legacy. 27 identical black moleskin notebooks, filled with the intricate labyrinthine language of my craft. They contained every calculation, every stress test, every harebrained idea I'd had that had been polished into a Thorne and Associates vision. They held the solutions to impossible problems. The geothermal exchange system for the Horizon Tower that Marcus had called geological nonsense until it won an environmental award. The unique cantilevered suspension design for the Serenity Bridge that everyone said couldn't be done. Marcus saw buildings. I saw the complex, interconnected systems that gave them life. The notebooks were the key to it all, written in my own dense, meticulous shorthand. To an outsider, they were hieroglyphics. To me, they were everything. On the third day, I got a call from Clara, a junior architect with a kind heart and more talent than Marcus would ever acknowledge. "Leo? Oh my God, are you okay?" she whispered, her voice furtive. "The office is a morgue. Marcus is pretending nothing happened, but everyone knows. It was unforgivable." "I'm fine, Clara," I said, and was surprised to find that I meant it. "Thank you for calling." "They're trying to access your files for the Ethelgard project," she said, and a jolt went through me. "They can't make heads or tails of your core schematics. Marcus is losing his mind." The Ethelgard Tower. It was to be our crowning achievement, a commission from the venerable Katsuhiro Nakamura, a Japanese tycoon who valued precision and honor above all else. It was a breathtakingly complex design, a twisting skyscraper that looked like a calligrapher's brushstroke, designed to be the most earthquake-proof building on the continent. The aesthetic was a collaboration, but the soul, the impossibly intricate internal lattice structure that made it all possible, was mine. It existed almost entirely in notebook number 26. "Tell Marcus my consulting fee is $1 million per hour, with a 10-hour minimum," I said, the words tasting sweet and audacious. There was a choked laugh on the other end of the line. "I'll pass it along," Clara said, a new respect in her voice. Of course, Marcus never called. His ego wouldn't allow it. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing. I started freelancing, small jobs, fixing the mistakes of other engineers. I paid my rent. I ate. I survived. The rage and humiliation had cooled into a solid, quiet resolve. Then, one rainy Tuesday, my phone rang. The caller ID was an international number from Japan. "Am I speaking with Mr. Leo Vance?" A polite, heavily accented voice asked. "You are." My name is Kenji Tanaka. I am the personal assistant to Mr. Katsuhiro Nakamura. Mr. Nakamura was in your city last week for a site inspection of the Ethelgard Tower project. My blood ran cold. He was most displeased, Mr. Tanaka continued. Mr. Thorne was unable to answer even the most basic questions regarding the building's structural integrity. He referred to the core plans as Leo's hieroglyphics and assured Mr. Nakamura that his new team would simplify the design for easier implementation. Simplify. The word was a desecration. To simplify my design would be to destroy it, to lobotomize the very thing that made it both beautiful and safe. Mr. Nakamura is a man who believes a building, like a person, has a soul, Mr. Tanaka said. He felt the soul was missing from his conversations with Mr. Thorne. He has since done some research into the matter. He has learned of the unfortunate events at your company's awards dinner. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken meaning. Mr. Nakamura would like to meet with you, Mr. Vance. He is flying back to the city tomorrow. He asks if you would join him for tea. We met in a quiet, minimalist suite at the Four Seasons that overlooked the very spot where the Ethelgard Tower was supposed to rise. Mr. Nakamura was a small, elderly man with eyes that seemed to see right through you. He was dressed in a simple dark suit, but he radiated an aura of immense power and dignity. He bowed slightly as I entered. I bowed back. There were no pleasantries, no small talk. He gestured to the low table between us, where a tea set was waiting. Mr. Thorne described your work as that of a nerd, Mr. Nakamura said as he poured the tea with practiced grace. In my culture, we have a word for such people, takumi. It means artisan. It is a title of the highest honor. It refers to a craftsman who has dedicated his life to perfecting his art. He pushed a cup towards me. I have reviewed your initial proposal. The one before Mr. Thorne's marketing team added all the decorative noise, the internal lattice, the suspended dampening system. It is not just engineering, Mr. Vance. It is poetry. It is kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold, making it more beautiful for having been broken. You have designed a building that honors the violent power of the earth, yet is not afraid of it. Tell me about its soul. For the next 2 hours, I talked. With my notebooks spread across the table, I walked him through every equation, every line of my hieroglyphics. I explained how the building was designed to sway, not resist, to absorb and redistribute seismic energy like a martial artist. I spoke of the materials, the tolerances, the philosophy behind the engineering. I spoke from the heart, with a passion I thought I had lost. Mr. Nakamura listened, nodding occasionally, his sharp eyes missing nothing. He didn't just understand the technicalities, he understood the why. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. He looked out the window at the empty construction site, a gaping wound in the city's heart. Thorne and Associates will receive a notice of contract termination this afternoon, he said simply. I do not entrust my legacy to men who mistake artisans for losers. I do not build on a foundation of dishonor. I was stunned into silence. The Ethelgard Tower, however, will be built, he continued, his gaze returning to me. A project of this magnitude requires a firm, a leader. I am prepared to offer you the seed funding to establish your own engineering and design consultancy. Vance and Artisans, perhaps? A smile touched the corners of his lips. You will have one client to begin with, a very demanding one, but a very loyal one. You will have complete creative control. You will build my tower, Mr. Vance. You will give it its soul. 16 months later, I stood on the 30th floor of the half-finished Ethelgard Tower, the wind whipping around the exposed steel beams. The skeleton of my design, my impossible, poetic lattice, rose around me, a testament to broken trust and new beginnings. Vance and Artisans was no longer just me. It was a team of 20 brilliant, passionate engineers and designers, including a much happier Clara, who had jumped ship from Thorne's sinking vessel the moment I made her an offer. We were a company built on a single principle: honor the work and the worker. From this high up, you could see most of the city. I could see the shimmering, soulless facade of the Horizon Tower, a monument to my old life. And then I saw him. Marcus Thorne, standing on the street corner across from my construction site. He looked smaller, diminished. The bespoke suit hung a little looser. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by a weary slump. His company had been crippled by the loss of the Ethelgard contract. Reputations, once shattered, are not easily repaired. He stood there for a long time, just staring up at the rising bones of the building he had so casually thrown away. At the monument being built by the loser he had tried to publicly execute. He eventually turned and walked away, a ghost disappearing into the lunchtime crowd. I felt no anger, no surge of victorious revenge. I just felt a quiet, profound sense of peace. Marcus Thorne had tried to define me with a single hateful word. He'd announced to the world that he was proud of all his staff, except me. He thought he was casting me out. He didn't realize he was setting me free. I had left that ballroom humiliated, but I had walked into the rest of my life, and I was building it, one meticulously engineered beam at a time, reaching for the sky.